When I was in Leaving Cert, doing my just preparing actually for Leaving Cert, I didn't actually do engineering for Leaving Cert as a subject, and I had a guy that came up to me and he knew I was working as a mechanic or whatever, and he had problems with his project in engineering. So myself and him actually spent a few weekends to actually complete his project, and so he actually got a very good project. What I'm saying here is that basically, even if you maybe pick the wrong subjects, you decide, you know, maybe that's not for you. There's ways of actually kind of moving into areas you really want, and at the end of the day, just always kind of follow your interest. Where I ended up actually going was to Dublin Institute of Technology, and I kind of picked this because the first and second year were very general, and as well as that, I didn't really want to go into a 4-year-long degree or something and stay there for 4 years and still not know what I wanted to do. So I did this kind of a cert diploma degree way, and you know, it's up to you how you want to do whatever you want to do. But it was a general way that I kind of liked doing it, because I could choose after, say, second year that I wasn't really interested in this anymore. I want to do something else, and it just kind of left the door open, and I always kind of do that still, is kind of keep options open. And in Bolton Street, you know, it's an amazing college in general if you are interested in engineering, and to a point that they make you do many projects, and they're all kind of your own idea. If you have an idea, you'll be able to actually work through it and just do a project on it. And I'll just have a little short video here of a silly project that I did. And basically what it is I developed a kind of a sleeve for my arm, and basically when I moved my wrist, my elbow, my shoulder, and my finger, it would actually mimic to a robot. You can see the robot in a minute. So basically, anything my arm did, the robot did. And that was kind of a really cool, interesting project to actually do this. And you know, it's a bit of fun, it's a bit of crack. Play with robots. It's all good fun. And I got this to a point where actually I could pick up nothing here, and I'd have the robot picking up a box. And then it moving around the box, and I'm here actually picking up nothing. So it was really cool, and it was just an interest that I had was that.
Yep.
I eventually got this working. I think this works here at the end here. But so, you know, my point here is kind of, you know, I always did something that I was kind of interested in. Always kind of asked the questions, and always kind of wondered how stuff kind of worked. From there, then I ended up moving into joining a company called Renishaw, and actually, funny enough, they were actually a robotics company, and I don't know if this video is very high quality, but just shows the type of robotics, and basically the robotics it makes is they're called CMMs, and they're used to measure really, really hard to measure items such as wing blades, something that you can't get a ruler and literally measure it. They use a kind of a robot to actually scan some fins and curved surfaces, etc. And it's just a kind of a video that's going along. But there was an interesting company, and again they gave lots of opportunities to actually work with them, and projects in them was actually pretty interesting. Designing up robots and using actually what I wanted to do, what I learned in college to actually in a job. So, having said that, I was with the company for about a year and a half, and I got bored. I was kind of going, this is not for me. I don't want to be in a making robots for the rest of my life. Is there anything else that's kind of interesting? So at that stage, I was still in the back of my mind interested in the kind of space area, engineering, all that kind of area. But I also kind of had an interest in kind of energy and kind of, you know, energy production and solar cells, all that kind of general area. And what I ended up doing then was actually applied for a PhD in Dublin City University in the north side of Dublin. And what I wanted to do was actually, I talked to the lecturers, I talked to the guys, and I said, I wanted to learn something new, basically. And what I ended up doing was actually doing a PhD, and I'm not going to go into the PhD because it's kind of very specialized, but basically it was actually to do with an idea that water can be used as a fuel, and mainly actually hydrogen that's produced from water can be used as fuel. And if any of you are doing chemistry, biology, anyone? Hands? Yes, one person at least. Yeah, you're doing chemistry, yeah? In chemistry, if you do an experiment called electrolysis, what you do is actually you get water and you put 2 electrodes in it, you put electricity through the electrodes, and the electrodes start bubbling gas. And what actually it bubbles is hydrogen and oxygen. And those are very flammable gases, and you can actually use them to burn them and to actually create energy or heat or whatever you want. And funny, on that, actually, as a note to you guys, have you ever heard, or you've heard the Young Scientist Expedition? Yeah? Have any of you applied? Yous are going to? The Young Scientist Expedition is a really, really interesting thing. I applied for it when I was in school. Luckily, I got it. And actually, my project was to investigate if water can be used as a fuel. And I didn't win anything. I went and did it. I had great fun. It's actually a really, really good platform to learn about science, engineering, meet new people, meet people that have a similar interest to you, and kind of just get involved in different projects, even if it's from engineering, biology, agriculture, gaming, whatever you're interested, you can do a project. And it kind of gives you an opportunity to kind of ask questions and literally do it in a project that you actually get these questions answered, we'll say. So what I started then, kind of literally my PhD was very similar related to actually my Young Scientist Expedition project. And that was interesting for me to actually learn. I was out of college and I was in work, and then suddenly I was learning new areas, and I was kind of asking more questions. How does stuff work? So basically, guys, the floor is for you if you have any questions. And before I move on to the next section, which is probably the more interesting section than me just talking. It's more videos, so that's good. So, anything. What do you want to be when you leave school? Or what do you want to do? Do you want to go to college, PLC, apprentice? Anyone? No takers.
What did you put on your CAO form after your guy became said that to you?
I left him on it. I actually, I put actually aeronautical engineering as my first in my degree, and I got offered that, but I had in my cert diploma application, I don't know if it's on the same still, but I had biotechnology and engineering, and I actually didn't end up not getting the points for the biotechnology, and I got the points for the engineering. So I had a choice then to make whether I want to go to do a degree course or a cert course. And I actually chose a cert course because after 2 years I could decide, if I didn't like it I could leave. And then, so I ended up just staying on and ended up getting the degree the long way around, one would say. But it just, from even still in my job today, doing it the long way, doing extra projects, doing it in a more hands-on way, which the DITs do it, I think stands to me more to me personally than doing a straight degree, just learning from kind of books and such. And even actually at the moment we're employing 2 new engineers are joining my team with EnBio, and those guys, I put up actually on their CV, on the job spec, interest in space, hands-on approach. And, the guys that we get actually are kind of very general engineers, we'll say, all have a general interest in many areas. And that's kind of what our area is looking for. And that's kind of what the space area is looking for, is basically a kind of a general knowledge in everything. So we'll see how that goes. So, no questions. I'm going to move on to probably just a few. I'm going to just talk about this for a few minutes, but basically what's going to take over is some videos. And again, as I go through, if you have any questions, put up your hands. Don't be shy. Remember, take this as a career guidance opportunity. You probably all have career guidance teachers in school, but if you do have an interest in science, technology, engineering, any of that area, your career guidance teacher might not have all the information. Ask me. If I don't have all the information, I'll definitely try to get it to you, or try to impart what I do know. So so basically, when I was doing my PhD and working as well at the same time, because I still wasn't earning enough money to pay for college, I seen there was an opportunity with Higher Education of Ireland to actually send students who had an interest in general science areas to companies across the world, in Europe and US, universities in Europe and the US, and also agencies. And one of these agencies happened to be NASA. So I seen this opportunity, and I said, I'll apply for it. The worst that could happen is that I'm rejected, and I'll have to apply again. So basically I applied for it, and I did get rejected actually about 2 years in a row. But the third year, I eventually got accepted. And so what I ended up doing was I kind of went over, at this stage I was a qualified engineer, a small bit of interest, bit of experience, a big interest in space, but nothing really kind of set in stone. But I went over as very open-minded and asking lots of questions. I went over and ended up working on the Kennedy Space Center. So this is actually an image taken from go back 2.5 years ago. The Hubble Space Telescope was being serviced by a crew of astronauts, and basically when they were servicing it, they actually just happened to fly over or orbit over Florida, and so they took some nice pictures. So in the circle area, that's say Florida is the panhandle there, and in the circle image, that's the general size of the space center in Florida, and this here is just the main space base, and basically the Kennedy Space Center is about the size of Louth, I'd say. It's a very, very big area, and it's actually mostly swamps and trees and alligators, and that kind of gives its own kind of security to the whole base. And then there's the ocean on one side, but in the middle of it, then what we have is this building. It's called a VAB. You probably recognize it, possibly. You have the shuttle servicing facility, which just goes down this area here. We have the launch pads, and the shuttle launch pads are up on this area. And then on a lower area down along the coast, there's actually all the satellite launches. And then further down the coast, there's actually a military base, which they do some satellite launches as well from. So all these top secret missions that the military do, the US military do. So this here then is the longest runway in the world, where the shuttle lands. And then the building I was in was this building here. It's called the Space Life Science Lab. And in that building, and there's another, 10 or 15 buildings, and they're huge buildings, and basically they're dedicated to kind of experiments, companies that are directly related to NASA, companies that facilitate NASA. On the base alone, there was 10,000 people working, and they're all NASA employees. And as well as that, then the military base had another 10,000 people working. So in general, the size of Louth, but in a very small, concentrated areas, there was 20,000 people working on satellites, space projects, etc. And these people, their backgrounds, anything from biologists to horticulturists to accountants, banks, post office. Like the whole area had it's a little city in itself. Banks, post office, solicitors, you name it, it has it in the base, and they all have the at nasa.gov as their email, and they're all NASA employees. And it was interesting to kind of come over to the base. For the first day, actually, we had to get security clearance. So there's a big background check on they asked me all sorts of questions, where have I ever traveled, and there's a big security check. So when the first day I went over there, they actually I spent about half the day doing fingerprints and eye scans and all sorts of things, and that expected security from a high technology, we'll say, base. So basically, it was very funny because I spent a whole day in this place doing all this security and asked all these questions, and then the next day I got this thing called a white badge. And what the white badge allows you to do is actually go anywhere in the base. So as you can see from the pictures, I did, and I spent. I went everywhere on the space center. Well, yeah. So basically, one of the main reasons for the Kennedy Space Center to exist is to perform experiments. And as I mentioned earlier on, launching something up to space isn't cheap. But the kind of the benefits of actually, the science you get back, the questions you answer, and in the process creating lots and lots of jobs, and in the process actually, you might develop something for space, but so many things have been developed just for space, and they're used every day by you and me today, like solar panels, Velcro, titanium implants, and the whole reason for actually using titanium and processing it came originally from the early space days. And lots of technology with guidance, etc., is all kind of coming back from initially being used in space. And at any one point, actually, there's about 400 satellites orbiting the Earth. And these are satellites, like, for example, your Sky television has a suite of, or Sky have a suite of satellites that broadcast your TV to you. Your GPS that you got on your phone or in your car, that's coordinated by 36 satellites that orbit the Earth. Your weather forecast, that comes from about 16 different satellites that orbit the Earth. And then there's, the military satellites. I don't know, there's probably about 20 satellites that do military stuff up there. Who knows what they do? And then there's also, obviously, the science satellites that literally measure everything from the temperature of the ocean to looking at ice development and retreat, looking at fires in far-off countries, looking at smog over China and how that's interacting with the environment, and basically kind of trying to understand what the planet we live on and try to understand it. So basically, when I came on board into the Space Center, the project I came on board with was a project called ABERS, Advanced Biological Research System. And basically, this was a unit, which you can see there. It's only a relatively small unit, and this unit was designed by Canadian Space Agency scientists and in conjunction with Florida Institute of Technology. And these guys, they basically had kind of one question. They had willow trees that they wanted to grow in space, and they also had these little plants that they want to grow in space. And the question goes, why the hell do you want to grow trees in space, and why do you want to grow, weeds in space? But the thing was that actually the little trees they were looking at were actually willow trees. And they had a kind of an interesting question that when trees grow in space, they obviously don't grow against gravity. They grow a bit differently. And they produce the woody structure, or the wood within those plants is very different than what it is here on Earth. And it's because of its microgravity environment that's literally floating around. And then, so they wanted to understand that a bit better. And basically, the result of that, if that was successful and they could understand a bit better, they could understand how paper manufacture could be more efficient, etc. And the other question was on these plants. They actually grew these plants because in microgravity, these plants produce a protein, a chemical that's really interesting. And that chemical is actually really interesting for cancer research. And when that plant is in gravity on Earth, it doesn't produce this chemical, but when it's in microgravity, it does. So it's kind of going, well, why does this happen? Asking the basic questions, just constantly asking the questions, why does this happen?